The invitation had arrived 6 weeks earlier, printed on heavy cream paper with the university seal embossed in gold. Noah Mercer, graduating summa cum laude, selected as commencement speaker for the class of 2026. His department head had called it extraordinary. His professors had called it deserved. His mother, had she still been alive, would have cried so hard she couldn't speak. His father said nothing when Noah told him. He just nodded once, slowly. The way certain men nod when something lands so deep inside them that bringing it to the surface would require more composure than the moment allows. Then he turned back to the sink, finished washing the dishes, and said he'd be there. That was all. That was enough. James Mercer was 58 years old on the morning of his son's graduation. He had spent the night before exactly as he had spent most nights for the past 22 years working. The security desk at the downtown storage facility ran from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. James had held the shift since Noah was in 6th grade. Back when the choice had been simple and brutal, sleep or pay rent. He had chosen rent. He had kept choosing it year after year until choosing it became less a decision and more a posture, the natural way a certain kind of man faces the world. He drove home at 6:15 in the morning, showered, and put on the best clothes he owned. Dark trousers, slightly frayed at the cuffs. A collared shirt, clean and pressed. Shoes he had polished the night before, at the security desk, during a quiet hour. He looked at himself in the bathroom mirror for a moment. He was not a man who looked in mirrors often, but today he allowed it. He saw what was there, without pretense or apology, the gray at his temples, the lines around his eyes. The hands that had poured concrete and carried lumber and driven forklifts and sat at security desks and signed countless permission slips and made innumerable school lunches and never, not once, not for a single day in 22 years, failed to be where his children needed him to be. He picked up the cream invitation from the kitchen counter. He read Noah's name again. He put it in his shirt pocket, close to his chest. Then he drove to the university. The campus was dressed for ceremony. Banners hung from every lamppost. Families in their finest moved in clusters toward the main auditorium. There was laughter, there were flowers, there were mothers adjusting the collars of young men who looked both proud and slightly embarrassed. The air carried that particular electricity of a day everyone has worked toward and nobody quite believes has arrived. James walked toward the main entrance. A young man in a university blazer stood at the door, clipboard in hand, checking credentials. He looked up as James approached. And something in his expression shifted, not cruelly, not dramatically, but with the particular efficiency of someone trained to sort people into categories quickly. "Sir," the young man's voice was polite but firm. "This entrance is reserved for faculty, honored guests, and families with assigned seating." He gestured to the left, toward a path that curved around the building. "General admission is through the east entrance." James looked at the door. He looked at the families moving through it. "My son is the commencement speaker," he said. The young man glanced at his clipboard. "Name, Mercer." "Noah Mercer." Pause. The young man scrolled. "The speaker's family has reserved seating. I'll need to see your credential." James reached into his pocket and produced the cream invitation. The young man examined it. His expression didn't change exactly, but something in it recalibrated, a small, internal adjustment that he did not quite manage to hide. "This is a general invitation, sir. Not a seating credential." He looked at James's clothes again. "Not unkindly. Just honestly. The east entrance can accommodate you. You'll have a clear view from the standing area." James took back the invitation. He folded it carefully and returned it to his shirt pocket. "Thank you," he said. He walked toward the east entrance without another word, without hurry, without the tight jaw or the sharp breath that another man might have carried. He simply walked, and the morning light fell across him. And he found his place at the back of the standing section along the east wall, where the sound system was slightly muffled and the view required standing on the balls of your feet to see the stage. He stood on the balls of his feet. He had driven a forklift for 6 hours the day before. His lower back ached. He stood anyway, because that is what a man does when he has come to see his son. Inside the hall, 3,000 people settled into their seats. Noah Mercer stood in the wings, cap and gown, notes in hand, heart doing something irregular and unauthorized. He had written the speech 14 times. He had practiced it in his apartment bathroom mirror, on the subway, during lunch breaks, at 2 a.m. when sleep wouldn't come. He knew every word. He knew every pause. What he hadn't planned was what he felt when the dean leaned over and said, quietly, Your father is here. Standing section, east wall. Standing section. East wall. Noah closed his eyes for 3 seconds. He breathed in. He breathed out. When he opened his eyes, something had settled inside him. Not anger. Not sadness. Something that felt instead like the solidification of every reason he had written the speech in the first place. He walked to the podium. The speech began conventionally enough. Gratitude, faculty, the journey, the challenges overcome, the future ahead. 3,000 people listened with the polite, expectant attention of an audience waiting for the thing that will make the day memorable. Then Noah stopped. He set down his notes. He looked out at the auditorium, the gowned graduates, the proud families, the faculty in their academic regalia, and he said something that nobody in the room was expecting. Before I tell you what I've learned, he said, I need to show you who taught me. Silence. There's a man standing in the east section of this auditorium right now. He is standing because he was directed to the standing area. He is wearing his best clothes, which are not expensive. He drove here this morning from a night shift that ended at 6 a.m. Nobody moved. He worked construction from the time I was 5 years old. When my mother passed away, I was 7. My sister was 9. My brother was 4. Noah's voice remained steady. He did not leave. He did not fall apart. He did not ask anyone to feel sorry for him. He went to work. 3,000 people were completely still. He worked 3 jobs for 11 years. He came to every school play, every parent-teacher meeting, every single one of my brother's basketball games. I do not know when he slept. I asked him once when I was 13. He said, when you're all okay. I sleep fine. A sound moved through the auditorium. Soft, involuntary. The kind that comes from a room of people simultaneously feeling something they hadn't braced for. He never told us we were poor. He never made us feel the weight of what he was carrying. He just carried it, silently, completely. The way certain men carry things, not because they don't feel it, but because they have decided that their children will not. Noah looked toward the east wall. Dad, the word fell into the auditorium like a stone into still water. Stand up. For a long moment, nothing happened. 3,000 people turned toward the east wall. The man in the dark frayed trousers and the polished shoes and the cream invitation folded close to his chest stood a little straighter. He did not wave. He did not smile broadly. He looked at his son on that stage, and his eyes did the thing that eyes do when a man has kept something contained for a very long time, and the container finally, gently, gives way. He nodded, once, slowly. The auditorium rose, all of it. Faculty, graduates, families, everyone, standing, in the way that people stand when they have witnessed something that reminds them what the whole enterprise of human effort is actually for. Asterisk. The young man in the university blazer stood at the back of the hall. He had come inside after his post was relieved. He had heard the speech from the doorway. He looked at the man on the east wall. He looked at the stage. He sat down very carefully, as if the act of sitting required more thought than it usually did. After the ceremony, Noah found his father outside on the steps. James was sitting on a low stone wall, the cream invitation unfolded in his hands, reading his son's name again. Noah sat beside him. For a while neither of them spoke. They had always been comfortable in silence. It was something the years had given them, this ease of being together without words. Finally, James said, "You didn't have to do that." Noah looked at him. "Yeah," he said. "I did." James folded the invitation again. He put it back in his pocket. "Your mother would have been so loud," he said. Noah laughed, real laughter. The kind that breaks cleanly through emotion and lands on the other side of it. "She would have embarrassed us both," Noah said. "She would have embarrassed the whole building," James said. They sat there on the steps as the crowd thinned and the banners moved in the afternoon wind and the campus returned, slowly, to itself. Just a man and his son, in the particular quiet of people who have come a long distance together and arrived somewhere worth arriving. James looked at his hands. Calloused, scarred in small ways, unhurried. The hands of a man who built something without being able to point to it in a photograph or describe it in a boardroom. The thing he built was standing next to him, grown and good, and that was the only credential that had ever mattered. He had not needed the seat at the front of the auditorium. He had earned the front of his son's speech. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be." B1. James Mercer never read Marcus Aurelius. He had not gone to university. He had not studied philosophy or read about virtue or attended seminars on purpose and legacy. He had simply gotten up every morning for 22 years and done what the day required. He had stayed. He had provided. He had shown up in old clothes and worn shoes to every moment that mattered. And when his son stood before 3,000 people and was asked what he had learned about excellence, about endurance, about the kind of life worth building, he pointed to the standing section on the east wall. Not to a theory, not to a book, not to an institution, to a man. The kind of man who does not require a credential to be extraordinary, who does not need to be recognized to be real, who builds his empire in the dark, quietly, night after night, while the world sleeps, and asks for nothing in return except that the thing he protected grows strong enough to stand on its own. It did. He always knew it would.